This is Past the Rock.
What is up, everybody? Happy New Year. It's your boy, Ceez, uh, bringing to you a very special solo football pod. Unfortunately, I was unable to record with Patrick and Bethke uh, on this previous episode. So I've decided I'm going to come in here with a little free time that I have to give you guys a nice, short, and sweet episode, kind of talking about week 18, some of what happened in week 17, and a little bit of news here and there. So, first things first, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, the Diggs brothers having some really bad days. Now, we're going to go a little bit on the heavier side first, and that is the news of Stephon Diggs and his strangulation accusations that have been, uh, you know, filed against him in a court of law. So he will be facing some legal challenges in regards to the accusation that he strangled one of his private chefs. Now, there's not too much more information other than that, so it is something to keep an eye on. We'll see if the NFL takes any action in regards to a suspension, fines, or anything of that nature. We'll see if the NFL is just going to wait and kind of make this be like an off-season deal where if he is found guilty, they'll probably tack on his suspension at next season. Or if they're going to suspend him coming into the playoffs, we'll see. I think the NFL right now is kind of staying pat and just playing the wait and see game to see if anything else comes to light. Now, there's been some other news regarding him, but it's a lot more speculation, where he may have fathered another child with another woman while he was dating another woman. So we're not TMZ. We're not going to get into that, but that is something that is also to keep an eye on with Stephon Diggs, and to see if the Patriots want to keep a guy like him around because he wears out his welcomes. And we've seen that in Buffalo. We've seen that in Minnesota. Talented player. He is on the wrong side of 30, though. So we'll see if the juice is worth the squeeze in that regard. Now, on to his brother, Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs got released by the Dallas Cowboys, as a lot of you have already seen. And, at first I was a little surprised that they moved on so quickly. Or not so quickly, but rather they moved on in season and didn't just wait until after the season just to let that contract expire, or I don't even know what his contract status was, to be honest. He gets picked up by the Packers, though, so the Packers will have him on the roster for their playoff run. They need as much help on the defensive side of the ball as they can get. He is a talented individual, but he gets burned quite often. A guy who plays the ball as much as he does is a little undisciplined, to put it nicely. So we've seen the highlights of him making great plays on the ball. We've also seen the lowlights, if you will, of him just getting absolutely torched in man defense. This is a guy who's really more suited to be a zone cover corner. I don't particularly know if the Packers are zone heavy or man heavy. I would figure they're zone heavy. I don't really anticipate that any of their corners have been really good at man. And so, it's a low risk, mid-sized reward for the Green Bay Packers to have him on there and see if he can bring anything to that defense that needs as much help as they can get. So there is that. What just broke as well, not just broke, but some more information that we're getting here in this offseason is that Troy Aikman, former Dallas Cowboys quarterback, current Monday Night Football color analyst, is going to be advising the Dolphins on their GM search. That'll be a very interesting outside of the box move by the GM, by the Dolphins here. I'll say this. Now, my team is not a great example of what I'm about to say, because Howie Roseman has survived multiple head coach firings. Multiple. and they could fire Nick Sirianni and he would still have a job. But I think in an ideal world, your head coach and your GM should be married, right? It does not make sense to have a GM and a head coach who are on two different timelines. They should be on the same timeline always. And by that, I mean they're hired together. They succeed together or they fail together. There is no in between. There is no, well, hey, you did okay, but you did awful, so you can stay and you can go. No, none of that. You shouldn't do that. It's what leads to dysfunctional organizations, unless you're like the fucking Philadelphia Eagles, right? But on the other side, I mean, if you have a GM who has all of the tenure like in the world, all the job safety in the world, you can still be dysfunctional. I mean, look at the Bengals. Now, they have a GM who is the owner. That's not talked about so as often as it is here in Dallas. That's because the Cincinnati Bengals are mostly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And you look at the Dallas Cowboys, right? Jerry Jones is the de facto GM, even if it's Will Clay that does all the player personnel stuff. Now, we see what those franchises have looked like. We see what the Eagles look like. And then we see what everybody else looks like as well. You typically want to have some form of stability, and you typically want to be able to build and succeed as a unit, right, in the NFL. Some teams have been the exception. Some have been the rule. And for an organization like the Miami Dolphins, they have no business trying to be the exception. They should definitely be trying to play by the rule. And so with that, I'm saying get rid of Mike McDaniels. If you're going to hire a new GM, make sure that the new GM picks the head coach. And they can pick who's going to be the next quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, because it's not Tua Tagovailoa. And it's not going to be Quinn Ewers. He looked okay in his last game. But again, it's just the ceiling isn't that high with the guy, right? And sure, you can have quarterbacks that don't necessarily have high ceilings and still win. I mean, look at Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, just to name two guys who've been to the Super Bowl and don't exactly, scream, oh my God, this guy's the guy, right? They're like, oh my God, this guy can get you to a title game, or this guy can get you to a Super Bowl. And I mean, we've seen it as well. Like Nick Foles back in 2017. Look at his career arc, right? Not exactly a guy that you thought would get you to a Super Bowl, let alone win it and outplay the guy across from him. But yeah, we've seen that. So we'll see what the Dolphins do. It's a dysfunctional franchise. So Dolphins fans, you're in for yet another rebuild. Sorry. Such is the way of life in the NFL. For what, 22 teams, really? Mostly. So we'll see with that. We'll see about that. Next up, we got to talk about some news happening in Baltimore, and that is the idea that Lamar Jackson is unhappy with the Ravens and potentially unhappy with John Harbaugh. Now, if you've been paying attention to anything that I've said over the last couple of weeks on the show, I'm not a fan of John Harbaugh. He has way too many blown double-digit leads. He's not an X's and O's guy. He's more of like that CEO, walk-around head coach. I want y'all to remember, his background is in special teams. He was a special teams coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles before getting hired on by the Baltimore Ravens. He's not a defensive coordinator. He's not an offensive coordinator. He does not have experience on either side of the ball, meaningful at least. And so you can tell by the fact that the defense has no identity. The offense under Greg Roman was run heavy. This one, under their current offensive coordinator, whose name is escaping my mind, as it usually does, he's brought a more pass-oriented attack, but the guy who essentially runs the game plans, who has the final say on when to go for it, when to keep the foot on the gas pedal, if you will, that's John Harbaugh. And we've seen the guy gets very conservative. He's a conservative coach. And you know how I feel about conservative coaches. Conservative coaches are cowardly coaches, more scared to lose than they are eager to win. And sometimes you could still win a Super Bowl. I mean, hell, he did it, but he almost let his brother's 49ers team get back into that Super Bowl when they shouldn't have. And so, alas, they're coming at a crossroads where it's win or get in for the Baltimore Ravens. If they lose, you have an 8-9 season. Yeah, Lamar Jackson was hurt, but your defense did not establish an identity. Your offense still is played by a bad offensive line. You shouldn't have gotten rid of the guys that you did on the offensive line. They took two flyers on two guys with massive size, but no skill, right? It just no skill. I think Daniel Falele, I think is his name. He is massive. He's like 6'8", almost 400 pounds. Massive guard, and he is getting just shoved around. He has no idea what he's doing. There's a reason that run game is not as good as it was last year. And there's a reason why Lamar Jackson has been getting hurt this season. That offensive line just can't stay up. And if they can't stay up, that means their quarterback can't stay up. And yes, Lamar Jackson is one of the most elusive quarterbacks we have ever seen. But at some point, they're going to get you. And it helps if you can delay that with a good offensive line, which they don't have. And they don't have great weapons either. So the team that refuses or is incapable of giving Lamar Jackson that 1A, top of the line, X receiver, somebody who can win on the outside. They have plenty of guys who can work the underneath middle parts of the field. Zay Flowers, he's going to be a great number 2. He should not be a number 1. He can have games where he looks like a number 1, but he has more fumbles and touchdowns this season. So Isaiah Likely, again, a guy who can work the middle, work the underneath parts of the field. He should be tight end 1, not Mark Andrews. And yet they refuse to move off of Mark Andrews, who has lost them key games in the Lamar Jackson era, right? So if Lamar Jackson is starting to get disillusioned with the Baltimore Ravens, I don't blame him. Look at when he was last in free agency, or his contract was up and he was going into free agency. They colluded with the rest of the league. We could see it with our own eyes. Nobody wanted to sign this guy. Nobody wanted to give up 2 first-round picks for a guy who was the youngest unanimous MVP in league history. The guy's won 2 MVPs, should have had a third. He's played out of his mind. He's made that Baltimore Ravens offense electric. Before Lamar Jackson, you would never associate the Baltimore Ravens with having an electric offense. A steady one, not an electric one, not an elite one. And then you bring in Lamar Jackson and everything changes. Lamar, if I'm you, I'm trying to I'm playing the power move. I'm trying to play the power game in that organization. It's me or it's Harbaugh, and that's it. Go get this guy, somebody who has a brilliant X's and O's mind, if you can. All right? Or how about a defensive-minded coach? Usually, I am not a fan of defensive-minded coaches, but they already have Todd Monken. That's the offensive coordinator's name, Todd Monken. They already have him in the building. He's not going to get any head coaching opportunities. Go get you somebody. As much as I love Zach Orr and his time at North Texas and his brief but incredible career as a pro, he's out of his element as a defensive coordinator. Go get you somebody. It should have been Mike McDonald. He's gone. It's too late. See if you can find somebody else. All right. But Lamar, if you do decide that you want to get traded, please don't choose Miami. The rumors are he wants to go to Miami. That's not going to work out. That's not going to work out for you. I know you're a Florida guy, but goodness, that's just bad decision. If anything, go to Tampa. Go to Tampa. You'll have weapons. You'll have a better offensive line than the one that you have in Baltimore. It's not significantly better, but it's there. You have Todd Bowles. He's an okay coach. Not amazing, but he's all right. Anyway, we'll see what happens in Baltimore in the offseason. But yeah, that covers that, doesn't it? Now let's get into our picks, okay? Because I'm going to try to keep this as short and sweet as possible. So the picks of the week that was, all right, right now, as things are slated, Jesus has thoroughly trounced us. I don't have a graphic. Don't blame me. but he's definitely beaten us. Now, has he beaten me? Well, yeah, he's ahead of me in the individual picks. But as far as just the program, outside of Jesus, your boys on top, Patrick and Becky, are fighting tooth and nail not to finish last. I think. I'm not sure. If you saw our Week 17 spread, Becky picked basketball games instead of picking those 3 games. So that's going to hurt him. And yeah, well, I don't know what the standings are. And so we'll find out. You guys will know who won the official Pass the Rock Pass the Rock versus Jesus competition, and then you'll see who won the overall picks contest. And I think we'll get that at the conclusion of Week 18, heading into the playoffs. All right, now let's talk about the playoffs themselves. So we're going into the standings. There is the AFC is confirmed, right? We know exactly who is going to be in what, who exactly is going to be in the playoffs representing the AFC. There is one conference that does not have all teams finalized, and that is the NFC, and that is because of the NFC South. Because of course it would be the NFC South that still does not have a division winner. No. The Atlanta Falcons went and did the funniest thing possible. Who, by the way, they've been eliminated for weeks now. The Atlanta Falcons can win their last game, finish second place in the division, and have been eliminated for weeks now. That's how bad and funky and weird this conference or this division is. But that's besides the point. The Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play a win and get in. Now they are locked into the 4 seed, right? So let's look around the rest of the seedings. You have the Seahawks, who are currently the 1 seed. You have the Bears, who are in the 2 spot. Eagles are in the 3. And then your wild card teams are the Niners, the Rams, and the Packers. The Packers are pretty much a lock to stay in the 7th seed. So whoever the 2 seed is will be playing the Packers. Now, the Eagles can win the 2 seed. The Bears do need to lose, and the Eagles need to win. Now, the Eagles are benching or resting, rather, some of their starters against the Washington Commanders. Now, the Washington Commanders are a bad team. There is a very high likelihood the Eagles can beat the Commanders in an ugly game, and the Bears, who are playing the Lions are eliminated. Lions can play spoiler. It's still a division rivalry, and this is a Dan Campbell-led team. Dan Campbell won't allow his team to quit. So, that said, what do I think will be the final standings in the league? Well, I think the Seahawks will retain the number 1 seed, right? Because the 49ers, who have been in the wild card all season long, who have not led the West, I don't think for the majority of the season, have a chance to be the 1 seed in the NFC. This team that's been decimated with injuries all across the defense and on the offense as well. Missing Brandon Ayuk for the vast majority of the season. Now, do I think the 49ers will be a formidable 1 seed? Absolutely not. That defense is a true Achilles heel. That offense, if it meets one of these incredible defenses in a playoff situation, I just don't know if they're able to overcome their weakness and also play perfect offensive football for the majority of the postseason. I just don't. The Bears, I think, are going to be locked into the 2 seed. I still think they beat the Lions. Eagles are going to be stuck in the 3 seed. So who goes in, Carolina or Tampa? I'm going to run with the Panthers just because, hey, I've been saying they're better than the Kansas City Chiefs. As half joking, half serious. I'm just going to stick with it. It's nice to see a franchise that was left dead in the water due to some bad trades, bad coaching decisions, start to find its footing and start to kind of turn things around. Tampa's on the wrong side of the Baker experience, so I just think, fuck it, why not? Let's see what Bryce Young looks like in the playoffs. Probably not great, but still, you never know. So, who wins the West? I think Seattle wins the West, and so then that leaves this. You have Seattle going up against the you have Seattle on the bye week. So then you would have Bears Packers for the third time. You'd have Eagles Rams, which would probably be the best matchup in Wild Card Weekend. And then Niners Panthers, where I think the Niners go in there as the heavy favorite. Now I'm not going to go into predictions, but we're just talking about what it would look like. Next week we will go into predictions though, and see how that goes. Then we got to go to the AFC. Now the AFC, the 1 seed is still up for grabs. It's the Broncos, it's the Patriots. Hell, even the Jags have like a small window of opportunity because they did beat the Denver Broncos. They would need the Broncos and the Patriots to lose. Jacksonville needs to win, and I think there might be another scenario that they need to have happen. And sorry, guys, I misspoke. There's 2 conferences or 2 divisions in each one in each conference that do not have a solidified playoff spot. The other one, AFC North, because the Pittsburgh Steelers currently the division leader, right, are the 4 seed. Now, they beat Baltimore. They go 10-7. Congratulations, Mike Tomlin. You finally escaped the 9-win purgatory that you find yourself in. And if you lose, you're back to being the same old Mike Tomlin. Not a losing record, but my goodness, you're just not very good, are you? You're not great. That's better. He's a good coach. He's not a great coach. Now you can say, well, he's done a lot with a little, but he's contributed to the team having so little, right? Yeah. Anyway, you got the Texans in the 5, the Chargers in the 6. The Bills might be the best 7 seed we've ever seen. The Bills are essentially playing for playoff seeding. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, right? They are going to be road warriors the entire way through, unless something wild happens where they jump the Texans and then whoever's in the 6 and 7 seed also find themselves in the AFC title game, right? You have an all wild card matchup. But I don't think that's going to happen. So of this, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, in terms of that matchup, who gets in? I want to pick Baltimore because I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan. But both teams suck. Neither one really deserves to be in the playoffs. And yet here we are talking about them. I'm picking Pittsburgh. My head says Pittsburgh, and I just can't hurt my heart anymore. So we're going to pick the Steelers. And as far as the 1 seed's concerned, guys, I think the Denver Broncos managed to hang on. They managed to hang on. But man, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jacksonville Jags somehow snuck in to the 2 spot. Will they? Probably not. I believe the New England Patriots they're going to play. They're going to play their starters. They're going to do everything they can to get that 1 seed. It's not completely in their hands. They play the Dolphins. It is what it is. The Broncos, I think they play. Who do they play? Did they play the Chargers? Or have they already played the Chargers twice? Yeah, they play the Chargers. Chargers can play spoiler. Chargers don't get a bye week. Right? They are stuck. They are stuck in the wild card. But I'm sure there's got to be some sort of temptation there to screw over a division rival and make them have to play next week. So we'll see what happens there. We will see. And as far as the Jaguars are concerned, well, the Jags, I think they have a pretty winnable game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they play the Titans. Listen, you play the Titans, and there's a good shot. You can make it. You can get a bye week into the one, right? That's if Denver loses. You already have the tiebreaker over Denver, right? And then that's if the Patriots lose. Which, by the way, did they play the Patriots this season? They didn't. They did not. They did not play the Patriots this season, but it would have been funny if they did and had gotten the win over the Patriots. Now, the Patriots play at 3:25 Central Time, Jags play it at 1 or at 12. So they're gonna be waiting quite some time to find out where their seating is going to be. Either way, they do get a home game in the first round of the playoffs. And yeah, y'all, that's all I got for now. Now we're gonna keep this nice, short, and sweet. I think one of the things that you guys need to be aware of is the watch it, skip it, train wrecks. But really, it's week 18, y'all. This is the last week for regular season football. And then we got to wait months and months to see this happen all over again. So, in honor of that, I say whoever your team is, it's always going to be a must watch. Don't skip. But it might likely be a train wreck. However, that'd be a cop out for me to just give you guys that. So let me give you your must watch game of the week. It's Panthers. It is Bucks. Right? It is win and get in. Your train wreck game is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens because neither one of those teams deserves to be in the fucking playoffs. Are you serious? Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, none of those. And that's the Sunday night game, by the way. They're saving this train wreck of a matchup for Sunday night because, of course, they are. And what about the game that you have to absolutely skip because it doesn't matter for shit? That one's tough. That one's tough. You know what? I'm looking at this. I'm looking at these games. It's Chiefs Raiders. Chiefs Raiders. The most must skip game of the week is the Chiefs Raiders. And that, y'all, is your watch it, skip it, train wreck. Honorary mention though, Chargers Broncos for must watch game of the week. That means the game of the week, like I just said, is going to be your Panthers Bucks. Because I just feel like that one's going to be a little bit more entertaining. You just don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to throw a bajillion picks, and you don't know if Bryce Young is going to go like 12 of 27 for 100 yards, but has like 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, has 4 sacks. Like you just don't know what you're going to get from there. And yeah, that one should be a little bit more entertaining because it's a different type of mediocrity than the one from the NFC North or the AFC North where it's Pittsburgh Ravens, right? Because one is like these two franchises that you expect competency from, and they're not given to you, and the other two are like the most dysfunctional division of football. So you kind of knew this is what you were going to get. So yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you next week. I'll see you next week alongside Patrick and Bethke. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy week 18 of the NFL football season. And we'll see you in the playoffs, baby. Oh, and with that, we are out. Hasta luego.
This is Past the Route.